Oh, there you go. So here's Tashi. This is Tashi, pretty Tashi. Yeah. Oh, rub, rub, rub. Rub, rub, rub.
Hey, good morning, dude.
Morning, Adam.
How you doing?
I'm okay.
Nice.
um, I think I mentioned our tenant is kind of fallen to pieces on us.
Yeah, you
Fortunately,
did.
I think he's going to be out in a couple of days. So,
Oh,
but losing 2 months rent doesn't make me very happy.
no, no, I can understand why.
Yeah, well, you got same issues.
Yeah, yeah. I did just have someone sign up for a couple months.
Oh, good.
Uh, yeah, a traveling engineer guy. I guess he works at some of the power plants
Mm-hmm.
over winter. They fire up like emergency generators.
Yep.
So they bring on temporary staff. So
Ah,
we'll just be here kind of January, February, March, and yeah, nice guy.
well, that's good.
So go from there, reassess from there.
Yeah, right. This is kind of a hard time of year to get somebody, so that's
Yeah, it is. It is. Not a lot of people looking.
no.
So, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's Hey Bill. Aha.
Ah,
Morning.
morning. Morning, Adam.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Okay.
I have a cat on my lap at the moment.
Oh,
Not a cat in a hat, but a cat in the lap.
Oh, there he is. He says,
right.
"What are you doing?" Well, we've got winter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
finally came, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Time for a change of seasons.
Yeah. Well, it's been kind of a weird change.
Yeah.
Well, come on, guys.
Where's everyone today?
Uh, running late.
Hmm.
Although I think it's just time. Joanne. Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you, Joanne?
Rename myself here.
You didn't.
Quiet.
What?
There's a quiet bunch of you today.
We are kind of quiet today.
Yeah, I guess.
Oops. Lower energy than usual.
My energy's okay. I'm just.
Just quiet.
There's Bill. Okay. Almost. Well, he's got a name.
Yep.
Hmm.
And a face.
And there he is.
Was.
Was.
I was, yes.
It's back.
Now you see me, now you don't.
You
Sorry for being late.
disappeared rather quickly, Bill. Okay. So how are things in your God's world? Any questions, issues?
Yeah, I have one, which is, I was thinking about this and then I was rereading the lesson from last week and it was like, oh, So I've been having some pain in my right arm, kind of from the shoulder down about middle arm. And so, I was like wondering, through the first three gods, how to deal with that blockage. And then it's like, oh, if you have a shoulder problem, it's it. But it's clearer to me when I feel that blockage in my torso, in my head, but being that I am using my arm and using the pain to move it, I'm finding that challenge. I have a better sense of kind of trying to work on moving the fascia when I'm not doing gods, just to try to kind of do that exercise to try to work on it, but having a harder time while I'm doing gods.
And so are you feeling that moving the fascia is causing the pain?
No,
No.
I feel like no, it's not causing the pain. I think I just slept on it wrong a few times, kind of, like on the shoulder. I think it's also the arm I use a lot, and I've been doing a little bit more heavy work this week.
And did you try dissolving that?
I did, with mixed results. It's still there. It's actually moved up the arm a little bit more.
So perhaps limit the movement somewhat and keep trying to dissolve it. The other way, of course, is to focus your mind on it and try to feel a release each time. Feel the mind going through it each time as you go through the movement. Sometimes simply repeating that the 20 times or whatever number of times you're doing it will release something there.
Mhm.
But if it is as a result of something that you have done or the way you're sleeping, then it may be that you need to do some specific stretching for that area to release whatever that is, begin to release physically what that is. But so you need probably to think about it in both ways, both physically and energetically.
Right. Right.
That I understand that can be challenging. Absolutely. Anyone else?
I think just difficulty doing the practice and outer dissolving at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I think I can do the practice and I can do outer dissolving, but when I put the two together, it doesn't feel like I'm doing either one very well. But it's still a good practice. I think just needs a lot of work.
It does. You're absolutely correct. It is difficult until you have all the pieces of gods that you are working on at the moment to the level where you do not have to think about them. You're just doing them and doing them fully and internally. It's very hard to dissolve and at the same time and get a really clear release. So
Yeah.
it is a matter of indeed not being too anxious about that at the moment, but recognizing that it's going to take a while before all of this comes together. It's kind of wonderful when you do arrive at that point, but it is a considerable period of time in your practice before you do. I won't say that's not the case.
Okay.
Either
of the Bills have anything?
Yeah, I'd just echo that same thing that's doing the practice. I'm in my practice, I think my real focus, and I think have with some success, is lengthening out and lengthening in, and not so much the fascia and those things. But when I'm sitting still or even driving or something, if I think about fascia and that, I in a sort of a meditative way with it, something goes on there, but it doesn't go on in the practice. So.
Good. I think one of the things to recognize in this that I am introducing a lot rather quickly, and it will take considerable amount of time before you arrive at where it's all comfortable. It, of course, related back to what I was just talking about with Adam, but you don't have to be doing outer dissolving at the moment. It may be that that's something to bring into your practice much later on, but it has at least been introduced to you, so you understand what to do. And that's true of each of these elements that we're talking about. And as we go through this, we do continually go back and review and go more deeply into each of these elements. So things that we've talked about, it doesn't mean that we won't talk about them again. We do. So, and I suppose one of the things that I feel is that we've started this, and I really want to take you through this particular training. And I am almost 88, and I'm not going to be teaching forever. So I'm going perhaps sometimes a little more quickly than might be ideal for you. And for that, I'm sorry, but you can go back to these lessons and be able to reintroduce things that you've had to leave behind for the moment. So, other questions?
No, I'll just chime in, pretty much a repeat of what everybody else has said. I've been trying to concentrate on my knee with mixed results, and I sometimes have done it mostly by intention and sometimes by outer dissolving. As everybody has said, trying to do the outer dissolving at the same time as the form has been difficult. And I just frankly don't know. I worked for a long time, about an hour last night, and my knee feels fine today, but I wouldn't be able to put money on exactly which of the practices had a positive effect,
Right.
So.
I think also in thinking about the outer dissolving, that's something that you can do when you're doing your standing work. I mean, we don't, since we're focusing on gods as a moving practice, we're not taking the time to do a standing practice before we begin. But that's obviously highly recommended. Probably more than recommended, it probably should be a requirement. But you can work on your outer dissolving when you're doing your standing work and probably have greater success with it at the moment than you do when you do it moving right now. Later on, when you have grown probably considerably more in gods, it will be more effective as you're moving. But it's real hard to jump into. I will not belittle that. So, any other thoughts or questions at the moment? I'm not meaning to cut this off. I just... Okay. So I want to begin to look, talking about going back to something, I want to begin to look at bending and stretching the legs with intent only, and applying that initially in movement 4. So inside of every Qi practice in China, they make a very big distinction between two things: the Qi of the upper body and the Qi of the lower body. And they're sometimes translated as the upper basin and the lower basin, which I must say in English probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But what it basically boils down to is that in one sense, it's a similar principle to Harvey's law of blood circulation. The more blood you move in the lower body, the more chi you will move in the lower body, and the more chi you will move in the whole body. So you have a ratio, as you all know, that moving 1 unit of chi in the legs down to the feet is worth 10 units from the hips up to the head and the fingertips. So getting chi to move through your legs is actually a very big deal. Now, when you come from the upper body culture, the general tendency is that unless you're doing something like running or something else that is very specifically involving the legs, you don't pay attention to them. All I'm saying is that in Qigong, you have to pay attention to your legs. Now, the first stage of moving Qi through the legs is bending or stretching the legs. And it's just, in a way, very similar to our work with bending and stretching the arms, where we worked on establishing that position of the elbow and maintaining its connection to the scapula and spine as we bend and stretch. So part of what this is going to involve when you're doing standing is that you've got to get the way that you are standing on your leg to extend your knee a little bit out of your hip socket, because this is what is going to give you the fixed point. So that when you bend and stretch your legs, it's going to cause the tissue to get stretched all the way down to your calves and your feet and up to your quad. Now, normally, if you were to go into a fold or a squat, your knee might come forward, and that would actually take pressure off the insertion point. If the pressure goes off the insertion point, the bending and stretchings are not going to happen. So first you have to sit back slightly with your back straight and get your knees so that they are directly attached to your hip and your knees are directly attached to your feet. And you reach that natural limit of where you can naturally can't go much lower or much further. You want to tuck your pelvis under, because not by having your butt go down, but having your knee actually go forward a little bit right into your ankle. So of course, what that in a way is talking about is going into at our base level. So you have sunk down a little bit so that your knee goes forward slightly. So you're not doing, you're not going to see much if I leave it like that. So when you're thinking of this, you don't want to be up, stretched up vertically. You need to have relaxed down so that the knee does go slightly forward. But then you have to have that sense of opening from the quad so that you create a little bit of space in the knee. And then the knee actually remains fixed. And this, one of the things I might say is that we can't really work with a partner in this class. So one of the things you can do is to go back to that exercise that we, I think, have done at times in the past, where having gone into your base level, just let your knees very gently touch a chair or something, not against the wall, because you have to be sure that can be allowed to move. But now that you've fixed the knee in position and you can feel that connection down to your feet, then you're going to either fold down if you're doing a fold. And if you're folding, remember, we're not squatting. So with a fold, you're probably not going to go forward, go down very far. With a squat, you'll be able to go further. But you want to really find how to fix your knee. And you have to open it slightly so that you have that energetic connection all the way from the feet up to the quad. If your knee is kind of wobbly, or you don't actually get it to bend to where it actually locks into your ankle and your foot, and it doesn't really lock into your hip socket, then when you go down lower, you're not actually going to stretch the tissue that's in them, in the thigh and the calf. So you have to tuck your tailbone under. So that's the other part of this. Not only do you have to fix the knee in position, but you need that little tuck here. So it's part of the C curve, indeed. So that little bit of tuck here, which allows you then to sink down and to rise up. And it doesn't have to be a huge movement. As a matter of fact, at the beginning, you're not going to have a very large movement. But you need to have that knee fixed in position first and then tuck the tailbone so that you can connect the insertion points, and you have to keep that connection to your insertion points. But this the place that it has to work from is basically the pelvis. So I'm going to also ask you all to stand up for a moment, or more than a moment. And just go into a basic standing position. And let yourself first drop a little bit at the quad into your base level. And feel that tuck of your pelvis, so that there is this sense of your tailbone going right down to your feet. And then, keeping your pelvis tucked, let yourself just fold down a little bit, but don't let the knees go further forward if you can. And just go up and down a few times, feeling that. Initially, your sinking down is not going to be that much because most of us are not used to having our fascia stretch that much. You want to be aware of keeping the pelvis tucked as you come up, as well as going down.
My knees really want to move.
That's why practicing this with a chair or something that will move a little bit in front of you, a light table or whatever you have available, is a good practice. It's all right for them to go slightly forward, very slightly, but not in any significant way. So you're not trying to go down very far, but your legs loosen up from doing this for a while. And then you'll be able to go as low as you want to, up to your 70%. But the trick is that there has to be no wobbling in your hips. There must be no wobbling in your knees. And the pressure from your pelvis rolling up should be pulling you from the bottom of your foot. And then when you go down, you should feel it pushing down to the bottom of your feet. And that should stabilize your focus on the ground. So you're not actually getting the bending and stretching of your legs to come from your legs, rather it's going to come from your pelvis, transferring through your legs. And this is rather a central point. Don't go forward, don't go back. This is important because the pressure you have from your knees is actually what is really going to make sure you feel your feet are on the ground. Stretching the thighs is relatively easy. Stretching the calves is relatively hard. Okay, so pause for a moment. So any questions there at that point?
No, I think just an observation that it's important when you come back up, not to go back up all the way.
Yep.
Like, oh, no, oh, that's the problem, yeah.
Is this position of the pelvis analogous to the bottom part of the C curve?
Yeah, as I said, yes,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
I wasn't paying attention.
Uh-oh.
That's all right. I had a lot of words. Anything else? Nope. Okay.
Oh,
So now we have the next question. How do you get your mind inside your pelvis? Now, the only time that most people are aware of their pelvis is usually during sex, unless they engage in sports where they really use the pelvis. Most people are not actually very aware of their pelvis. So some of this is partially because we belong to a puritanical culture where anything to do with the pelvis has all sorts of ideas of immorality or bad habits, or anyhow we're taking morality here and throwing it out the window. We're actually going to the physical mechanism of the body. So again, I want you to stand, if you've sat down again, and just see if you can get your mind and your intent to start going inside your flesh and down to your feet. And begin to do this folding down and up that you were just working on. And see if you can feel the stretch. It should stretch both in your thighs and your calves. So when you go down, stretch down from your quad to your knees, and up from your feet to your knees. And then when you come up, stretch down from your knees to your feet, and up from your knees to your quad. And see if you can grab your feet from your pelvis and your knees. And now put your mind on entering your pelvis and have your mind go down to your feet. Get your mind to go inside your feet and then up your legs to the top. And begin to use your intent to move your legs rather than just making it a straight physical push my legs action. Let your mind go through your body. Because your mind going through your body is what is going to be activating the chi. Going down and then coming up. As you're doing this, try and see if you are feeling a stretch happening between your knee and your hip. And feeling a stretch between your knees and your feet. Now, as you practice this, I think you'll find that with just a little bit of effort, you can get that to start happening. And you're doing this with your intent. And even if your intent can travel through your body, don't think that your fascia is going to follow just because you have a vague idea. You have to get your awareness to link to the different parts of what's inside you. So you have to have your mind inside your body. You have to have your mind and your body not disconnected from your mind. Your mind and your body are one thing. And your mind is moving chi through your body. And when you're moving chi by a physical action, it is registering in your mind so your mind can adjust. How much or how little is moving through your legs?